Recording. Okay, I am recording this. I am Sarah Velasquez. I am the communications coordinator for the K-INBRE. So if you haven't seen me around, you probably will see me either in emails or social media or at the symposium. So if you have any questions for me, please always feel free to contact me. We do have several types of social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and a website. So please participate any way that you feel like you can participate. We also have a LinkedIn that we encourage all of you to, if you don't have LinkedIn, please sign up for LinkedIn and join our group. Dr. Chapes, we're seeing your screen now.
Woohoo! Great screen, Keith. That's very clean, actually.
Can you stop sharing your screen, Dr. Chapes? Thank you. I'm about to share my screen because today, after the seminar, some of you may have participated in this before, but at the seminars, we always have, there's Dr. Chapes again. We always have a survey for everybody to fill out afterward. So we would like you to participate in that survey. So the way to do that is, here's our website. It's www.k-inbre.org. And if you go to the undergraduate tab and seminar series, you will hopefully find all of our seminars that we record and are able to post. And right here, there's a link for the seminar series evaluation. And I would like everybody to pull out their phone or their computer or whatever they've got today, if they're able, and click on that and just fill out a short survey for us about the seminar so that we can continue to improve on the seminars and, get your feedback. So please do that at the end of our seminar. And now I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Wright, and I'll let him introduce himself and get us started. Dr. Wright?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am, Sarah, can you see my slides okay? Good. Everybody see my slides? Okay.
Yes, you can see them.
All right. Hopefully everybody's doing well and you're started in the seminar. I'll introduce myself in a second. I just want to say thanks for everybody for getting started. I'm presenting from my office at KU Med Center. Right behind me, right outside the window, you can't see it. The new education building is being built for the medical school. So there may be some construction noises and some jackhammering, although with the rain today, they've been pretty slow. What I'm going to do today is tell you a little bit about the Kansas INBRE program. It's a little bit of its history and also what your participation in this program means, both for us and also for your career development. So Sarah, will they be able to ask me questions along the way, or will we hold questions for the end?
Whatever you'd like to do, either way is fine. Just remember, if your microphone is muted, to unmute it before you ask questions.
Okay. So if anybody has a comment or has a question along the way, please jump in and I'll try and answer them. So as Sarah mentioned, my name is Doug Wright, and I'm the principal investigator of the Kansas INBRE. I've been the director of the program since 2011. And what I'm going to tell you a little bit about today is how the K-INBRE or the Kansas INBRE program is organized, what organizations we work for in terms of the National Institutes of Health. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we hope to get from you and your participation. Tell you about opportunities that you can present your research and be active in research symposium and sharing information. Some important things you need to know when you get ready to publish your fabulous work and how that can help us. And then, what are the ways in which you can interact with us? As we move into a social media age, we have lots of opportunities for sharing information and research data along the way. As you'll see, I have lots of pictures of people. Most of these are actually my graduate students. Throughout the years, I've trained a lot of graduate students, and so I have some decent pictures of them. They don't like me using them, but they really don't have a voice in that. So most of the students you'll see are actually graduate students or my lab. Okay, so why am I giving this? I'm a researcher at KU Medical Center. I've been here, I started in 1997. I got my PhD from the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. And then I went on to do postdoctoral research for about 4.5 years at Washington University in St. Louis in the neurology department. I came here in 97 and joined the Department of Anatomy and Cell Biology at KU Medical Center. By training, I'm a neuroscientist. So I've studied aspects of the nervous system that are related to evolutionary biology, also development. My postdoctoral studies were really mostly neurodevelopment. But since I've been here in Kansas City, my research has taken a really clinical slant. So we really study diseases that affect the nervous system, particularly the peripheral nervous system. And most of those studies, because of what the peripheral nervous system does, are related to pain and sensation. So I would consider myself a sensory neurobiologist. I'm interested in how we perceive our environment and how diseases impact those peripheral nerves to cause abnormalities in sensation and pain. In 2011, I took over as the director of the KINBRE program from Dr. Joan Hunt. I'll talk a little bit about that in a little while, but I've been leading the program since 2011. I wear a lot of hats at the university, probably too many hats, but the two hats that keep me the busiest, I'm also the director of the neuroscience graduate program at KU Medical Center. We have a number of different graduate programs that are departmental based, but the neuroscience graduate program is unique. It is a bi-campus program with the University of Kansas in Lawrence, and they have an arm of the program over there. I'm the director of the program here, and students who are interested in getting a PhD in neuroscience will join this program after they complete a first-year coursework in an interdisciplinary graduate program. So I'm heavily involved in graduate studies here at the institution. Because of our work related to diabetes and diabetic neuropathy and pain, I'm also the scientific director of the Diabetes Institute here. So the KU Medical Center has a large number of researchers that are interested in diabetes, type 1, type 2, prediabetes, but also a very large number of people that are interested in obesity, diet, activity, and exercise, and all of those fall within the Diabetes Institute. So I'm active in a lot of different areas. I maintain a research lab. I have NIH grants of my own, and I had a lab full of graduate students at this particular time that will probably knock on the door at some point during this seminar and see if they can talk to me. But I have locked my door, so hopefully they won't get in. So I've been directing the program since 2011, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that program. So the first acronym, there are lots of acronyms associated with this program and with the federal government, is called the Institutional Development Award Program. We call it the IDEA program, and that's the umbrella program that's housed within the National Institute of General and Medical Sciences. So NIH has about 27 different research institutes, and one of those institutes is the National Institute of General and Medical Sciences, NIGMS. And within that institute, we have the Institutional Development Award Program. This program is unique because it kind of sits outside of the normal regulation of NIH. This was congressionally mandated in 1993, meaning that Congress passed legislation to develop this program. This program focuses on 23 states and Puerto Rico that are in the lower half of NIH funding. So this means all the states that don't receive as much NIH funding as other states are eligible. Kansas is one of those states, and it's largely in part because we don't have a huge number, we don't have a huge population, and we don't have a large number of research-intensive institutions. And so just our geography and our population place us in that bottom half. The goal of this program was to increase the research competitiveness of these particular states. So it's very difficult in Kansas and other IDEA states, and you can see a map of this at the bottom of the eligible states. It's very difficult, or it's not very difficult, but it's more difficult to compete against very large institutions that have large infrastructure. So Congress wanted to give us a fair shake. The IDEA program has three parts of it. There's a Center for Biomedical Research, which is a KINBRE program. The program I'm telling you about today is called the IDEA Networks of Biomedical Research Excellence, or the INRI program. And then there's also another program that's relatively new called the Clinical and Translational Research Centers, and those are focused on, as it says, clinical and translational research. So we are the INBRE, and the K for our INBRE is Kansas, and so I jump back and forth and call it the KINBRE or the Kansas INBRE, depending on how it comes out. So that's the program that we're associated with. It's important for you guys to know that this is congressionally mandated, meaning that this has to be approved at the congressional level every year, which always puts us at risk, and our budgets are passed by Congress. So it's a very important part of what we do, is to report back to NIH our successes, so that they can pass that on to Congress and make sure that we know we're being successful with their funds. So that's a really critical part about this program that's unique. So the current Kansas INRI program is in its 16th year. So this started in about 2000 in some early forms, but we've been in operation for 16 years, meaning we now have a long history of successes, and we've done very well in supporting the state of Kansas. So my job as the director is to take the funds that we get from the IDEA program and NIGMS and distribute that throughout the state to support research across the state. And since 2000, you can see that we've had $230 million in NIH support related to that. So that's a huge chunk of money, and it's really benefited the state of Kansas. Our goal in distributing this money is to help people get more NIH money, to make them more competitive so they can compete for those funds. And that's led to about $338 million in external funding that we can link to support from the KINBRE program. We support a lot of people in research, over 1,000 people in terms of research-related positions. And as you see, and the reason that you're here today is that we also support undergraduate students. One of the things that we aim to do is to develop a pipeline where people have opportunities to get engaged in research and then progress throughout their career and eventually be successful scientists. And so we're over 1,000 undergraduate students that over the 16 years that have participated, and you guys are an example of that today. And that's a terrific picture of Tim, by the way. Okay, so let me talk about the other programs really quickly. The Cobras are a little bit unique in that they are more focused centers of research that support a particular area. There are currently 6 Cobras. There's not one at K-State now. There's 3 in KU Lawrence and 3 at KU Medical Center. These are research-intensive grants that support mentoring and developing junior faculty, and allows institutions also to hire new people. And they've been incredibly successful in attracting new scientists to the state of Kansas. As the director of the INRI program, I work very closely with the Cobras in terms of integrating things and collecting information that's important to NIH. So if you're in the University of Kansas in Lawrence, you may know folks that are part of a Cobra. In fact, they just got a brand new one that just started about a couple of weeks ago. I think they got their Notice of Grant Award. We are the INBRE program, and you can see the map again at the top. All of the blue states are IDEA eligible states. And our goal is to support research expertise and infrastructure. Infrastructure meaning your ability to do research at your institution, whether that's space or equipment or support for personnel or students. Our other goal is to enhance the science and technology knowledge of the state's workforce, and we do that by helping promote and coordinating the sharing of research resources. And that's a large part of what Sarah does. As you'll see a little bit later, we have a communications core that is designed to do a lot of things, but one of the things that we hope to do is help people share information about their research across the state. And then finally, we are really focused on developing opportunities for students, particularly at the undergraduate level. I would say most of our focus is at the undergraduate level, to help students get an opportunity to do research in various laboratories across the state, and that's exactly what you folks are doing. Either getting started in a research laboratory, or maybe this is your second or third semester as a KINBRE scholar. So we want to help promote that pipeline to give you experience early on in your career, to give you an understanding of what research is like, what are the pros and cons of it, and what can you do in a scientific career. What are your opportunities as you go forward? So that's a large part of what we are involved in, and as I said, we've been doing for 16 years. And the faculty that are sitting in the rooms, most of them have been involved in this actually much longer than I have, including from the very start. And so these are folks that really know what they're doing and have done a great job in helping make us successful. Okay, so in the upper right, you can see a picture of Dr. Joan Hunt. She's a university distinguished professor and she's now retired. She's a professor emeritus. She was in my department. She mentored me for many, many years. In fact, I knew I was always in trouble when she called me Douglas. And she'd say, Douglas, and then she would call me in her office and she would let me know that I was doing something well or wasn't doing something well at all. But she was integral in initiating the Kansas INBRE program. It was first called the BRIN, B-R-I-N program, and that's outdated. And we're now in our 16th year of operation. Our INBRE program has a biological theme, or has a theme. When Dr. Hunt started this, she chose a cell and developmental biology theme. All of the INBRE programs have a theme, but we've chosen cell and developmental biology because that's a strength across the state. And it also allows us to capture a lot of different researchers across the state. You can broadly define cell biology in a lot of different ways. And my goal is to include as many researchers in this program that we can. So we don't want to be exclusive to folks that are really doing good research in the state. So cell and developmental biology, I think, and I've argued many times, gives us a very broad framework in which we can include faculty and students to be participating. So we are a network. We have 9 universities that we work with in Kansas, and then we have one in Oklahoma, Langston University. And part of what our goal is to work with these to develop a network so that there's shared information and opportunities for all of those universities to develop their research within our framework. So this is kind of a slide that illustrates sort of the general organization of our network. The networking is actually a really critical, important part, and really makes the INBRE program successful. They're quite unique. So as you can imagine, we have a large network of 10 universities, which makes it very difficult to sort of coordinate things, but we actually do it pretty well. So we have 3 research-intensive institutions. The Med Center is the base for this particular program, but then we have graduate partners in KU Lawrence as well as K-State. These are our 3 graduate partner universities. And then you can see we have a large number of undergraduate partners, of which you're part of, and you can pick out your favorite university and logo, and all of these contribute to our network. And you can see that we have a big challenge of communicating and working with all these institutions, because all of these institutions have their own ideas and their own directions and their own administrators, and part of what we do is to continue to develop that network. So as I mentioned, my job is to make sure that we distribute money from NIGMS and the IDEA program out to the state. And we do that through a large number of programs. In fact, we have 16 different mechanisms which we support research across the state. These include things like grants for researchers who are in between NIH grants or are very close to NIH grants. We call those bridging grants, and those are really important in kind of keeping research personnel hired, keeping work moving in the laboratory, obtaining preliminary results that might be critical for their grants. And so that's a big component of what we do. Depending on where we're at in our funding cycle, we might have pilot grants. We also support core facilities at various institutions. We have awards for excellence in mentoring. A big challenge for us is to recruit faculty into the state of Kansas. And so we help universities with recruitment packages to supply funds and research and equipment for faculty that might be entertaining taking a position at one of our 10 universities. We also have grant mechanisms that help a basic scientist and a clinician get together and work on a particular problem. And here at the medical center, that's very important, and it's actually very difficult to do. Getting basic researchers and clinicians to work together to take ideas that are maybe born in the basic science laboratories and take that towards the clinic, or modifying your research based on what the clinical research is telling you, is actually really difficult. One of the challenges at a medical center is getting folks like that, basic science and clinicians, to get together. We have very busy schedules and we're in different places, and it's very difficult. So we try to promote that by providing grants that pair up basic scientists and clinicians to work together. Another key step in the pipeline is postdoctoral studies. So this is generally done after your graduate work, after you've gotten your PhD. It's very common to do about a 3 to 5 year stint as a postdoc, and so we support those through postdoctoral awards. And then we also support young faculty as they're just getting started in developmental research grants to help them provide them research money so that they can be competitive to get their first NIH grant. And I think we have 4 or 5 of those. So we, over the 16 years, have really distributed money in a very sensible fashion. We have we're up to about 450 different awards that have gone out to Kansas researchers in the form of $13.4 million. And that we know by tracking this is helping them make them successful. They generated about $90.5 million in new grant funds. So if you're a business person, you use the term return on investment, and that's always important when I'm talking to administrators or legislators, and they want to know what our return on investment is. And so we have a pretty good return on investment overall, and that's very important. That helps demonstrate our success, that we're helping folks being more successful in their research endeavors. In addition to those funding mechanisms that I just talked about, this is relevant for the students in the audience. We have a number of different programs for student development, and most of you are part of these programs. And so you might be familiar with the STAR Trainee Program, which is sort of a capstone program designed for seniors in their last year, provides support and a little bit of research money for the laboratories and this is a competitive process in which you work with your mentor to put in an application. And I'm not sure how many STAR trainees. We generally have between 6 and 10 STAR trainees per year. I couldn't tell you what the current number is. Many of you are summer semester scholars, either in your first semester in research, or you're just starting out, or maybe in your second or third years. And each of the 10 institutions has a number of semester or summer scholars that you guys are participating in. We also have 3 different sort of tracks for semester scholars. We have students who are interested in doing bioinformatics as a field of study, so those are our bioinformatics scholars. We have folks that are interested in working with clinicians to do more translational research. I shouldn't say clinicians, I should say translational researchers, because I'm doing translational researcher and I'm a basic scientist. But there are opportunities to do that. And then there are opportunities to do community-based research as well. So we continue to broaden the scope of our opportunities for the students to try and get as many students as involved in the research. And as I mentioned, now we're up over 1,000 undergraduate students that have been supported by the KINBRE. So that's a big component of what we do, and it really falls on the campus coordinators to help us coordinate those activities across the different networks and to continue to keep track of those students. As you imagine, one of the things that we're mandated to do is to keep track of what you're doing and your successes, because that's what I have to report back to NIH, and that's what helps us continue to get funding. And so the third year of our 5-year renewal. So we have a couple more years, and then I'll have to write a big renewal back to NIH to go in. And so a large chunk of the work that we do to put those renewal applications in is to track and to follow and to hear about your successes. And so all of you will be contacted in the future to find out where you are, what you're doing, what are your successes, what have you published, because all of those are important for us to continue our success in this program. As an example of that, Dr. Chapes at Kansas State and Sarah Velasquez did some work now 3 years ago. I can't believe that's 2013. Did some work in terms of how we're being successful. And Dr. Chapes and Sarah published this in Microbiology and Biology Education, looking at how we're doing in terms of getting our students opportunities and what they're doing. And you can see that, you know, we have a really good success rate of students that end up entering a graduate, medical, or professional program. And ultimately, that's part of our goal. Our first goal is to give you an opportunity to sort of show you what research is like, to become involved in that, and help teach you about possibilities in your career development. And so, you know, this is an important aspect, because when NIH gives us money to build these pipelines, they want to know, is this program having a success? And so I can safely say our program has been successful, and comparatively speaking, it's doing very well in terms of educating students about research opportunities and helping them understand what opportunities are available, whether that's going to graduate school, getting your MD, or veterinary school, or some other sorts of thing. What we'll also start to see too is that, you know, there are opportunities in going into the workforce right away, and we'll continue to follow that. So I'm very proud of the success. And thanks to Keith and Sarah for putting this together to kind of help solidify and reveal our successes. So even though we're the state of Kansas, we don't operate in a vacuum. There are different regions within the idea states, and you can see the map on the upper left. You can see in greenish color, we are part of a central region. That includes the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma. We are known as the central region for the idea states. And what that means is that we work closer together than we do with the other states. So we have very strong relationships with the INRI programs in Oklahoma, Nebraska, South Dakota, and North Dakota. It's very interesting. Each state is very individual. You know, Idaho is very different from Maine. And each program is quite a bit different. I would say probably the Kansas program is very similar to Oklahoma and Nebraska in terms of our efforts and focus, but you can imagine the schools in South Dakota are very different. There's a lot of Indian nation schools, a lot of community colleges. They have very few large institutions, and so it's very interesting to see how those programs work to build pipelines, and it's a very different sort of situation. But we work very closely with these central region states and share a lot of resources. As part of that, every other year we have a central region meeting, and I just want to give you a heads up. The next meeting is in South Dakota in 2017, and if you're interested as a student and you want to travel to South Dakota to a research meeting, it'll probably have 250 people participating, and you want to try and present your research, we will certainly work with you to kind of get you up to South Dakota. I will be there. Most of the coordinators hopefully will be able to attend, and it's an opportunity to travel to another state and to participate in a research symposium. So just keep that in mind, and you'll hear much more information about that as we get closer to 2017. Okay, so here's a quick outline of how we are organized. I'm part of the administrative core as the director of the program, and I'll show pictures of these folks here in just a minute. But we have within this administrative core, we're the one that's responsible for the budget and the reporting and all the sorts of non-fun stuff that are associated with the grant. Within that, we have a committee that makes all the decisions on the funding choices that we make. That's directed by Dr. Abrahamson here at the Medical Center. And we have lots of folks that participate that from various universities, Wichita State, K-State, KU Lawrence, as well as some other entities. And those are the folks that really make the hard choices about where we're gonna fund, what kinds of proposals that we're gonna fund. Also within the administrative core, Dr. Chapes, directs the undergraduate research office, which is part of this network series. He's the one that keeps the campus coordinators in line and collects a lot of information from us. We have communication Core that's directed by Ryan Spalding and Sarah Velasquez. So the Communications Core has a broad responsibility, not only in helping communicate across the state like we're doing today, but also to report our successes and collect information. So Sarah work in that regard in terms of collecting information from you, as she mentioned from the start. The evaluations that we'd like you to fill out after this seminar are part of that process. It gives us feedback in terms of how we want to improve that. And as I'll talk about in a minute, we have lots of opportunities for interactions and places to share your information and your data. And so this is a critically important part. You can imagine with a 10 institution network, it's a very important aspect of our program. We also are mandated to have a bioinformatics component, and the way we have that set up is a three-pronged approach. Sue Brown on the K-State campus is the core director for that, but we also have sites at KU Medical Center directed by Brooke Fridley, and Stuart McDonald on the KU Lawrence campus is the director on that campus. And those folks work together to coordinate activities and support for folks that are interested in bioinformatics. And again, that's a central mandate for these particular programs. 16 years ago when this program started, bioinformatics was not very well developed in any of the IDEA states. And so that continues to be an important mandate for that. The other mandate is to have a developmental research program that focuses heavily on mentoring. And I've talked about some of those programs, the partnership pairs, the postdoctoral awards, the developmental research programs. Those are all research programs that are really involve a lot of mentoring. And one thing I hope you take away today is that science is really dependent on mentoring. As I progressed throughout my career, I really relied on people that are to provide me good advice about where I needed to go and what I needed to do. And so that's a critically important part. It turns out it's really important also in terms of learning how to write grants and being successful in your research career and making decisions about graduate students and projects and directions. And so mentoring is a really important part. And I'll probably touch upon this a little bit later, but each student, all of you students, should be asking questions of the faculty in the room with you. Those are terrific mentors who've got a lot of experience, and you should be asking questions about career development in science as often as you can, because that's a really valuable resource for you guys. Okay, so these are the actual people. Hayata Chapman is on the left. Hayata Chapman is been with the program since 2000. She has incredible knowledge of the programs, and she is she may be more than just an assistant director at this point. She's generally the boss. So if you're ever working with Hayata, you quickly recognize that she's the real boss of the program, and I take most of my instruction from her. She works very closely with Jan Lyon on the right. These two have worked together for about 8 years. They really are terrific. Jan runs a lot of the other aspects of the program, does a lot of the reimbursements. So if you're traveling or need something from that, Jan usually handles that. John Stanford is a associate professor in the Department of Physiology. His office is about 5 doors down from mine. His lab is about 3 doors down from mine. I've known John since he was hired. He started in about 2000. John is a neuroscientist as well, a very trusted friend, and John's been the associate director here for about 2 years now. So these 3 folks I rely on quite a bit. We meet on a very regular basis to talk about all the aspects of the program, and I rely on these folks as part of the administrative core. So here's a nice picture of Sarah. Sarah, wake up. This is the Communications Core. Ryan Spalding is on the left. He's the director. He's actually now a dean. I should probably get his official title. Ryan is involved in telemedicine and he's chancellor.
Vice Chancellor of Community Engagement.
Vice Chancellor of Community Engagement. Okay. And Sarah has been working with the KINBRE probably since 2009, 2010, I would imagine.
2010.
2010. Yeah. So these folks are important.
I like that my picture is bigger than his too.
I knew that. Actually, I think I did that intentionally. These two work together to help us in the communication score and do a lot of great things for the INBRE program. This is the Bioinformatics Core. Sue is in the middle. She's a University Distinguished Professor at K-State. Stuart McDonald is Associate Professor at KU Lawrence. And Brooke is, I think she just got promoted. Maybe she's an Associate Professor with tenure now at KU Medical Center. And these three work together to in terms of our bioinformatics score. Now, this is a little bit outdated picture. I couldn't find one that was updated, but the campus coordinators who are in the rooms with you out and across the state are critically important to our success. As I mentioned, many of them have been with the program since its inception. These are very experienced mentors, and we rely on them quite a bit, and they play an active role in the directions that we take in the INBRE, and I can't thank all of you guys enough. You know how important you are to me, and I don't need any of you retiring soon. So hopefully you're happy and continuing to work, and we'll work together for a while. But I just want to say thanks to all you folks, and because they do put in a lot of work and are really great mentors. Okay, so what do we need from you? What do I expect from you as students in the particular program? You're the key to our success, and your successes are important to us. So as Sarah probably hounds you on a regular basis and your campus coordinators, we need your contact information, because that's really important for us to be able to contact you at particular times and later in the future, because we're going to need to know what you're doing and how you've been successful. So that's a critically important part. It's surprising how hard that is to collect at times, but Sarah's very good at that. We need you to talk to your research mentors. I talked about how important mentoring is in science. So one of your jobs is to have discussions with your mentor on a regular basis, and don't be afraid to ask them questions about the particular science that you're doing, but also your career development. Ask them how they got started. Ask them why they're interested in science and why they love science. Ask them what they did to get to where they are. That's an invaluable source of information, and that should be something that you shouldn't be afraid to do. You should ask your mentors and communicate with them on a regular basis, because that will really enhance your experience, and it also will help you in terms of understanding what directions you want to go. Science is heavily regulated. There's a lot of compliance activities that we are required to do, and that's for our benefit and our safety. If you're doing animal research, there's a tremendous amount of compliance associated with the health and wealth of the animals. And so as a student participating in this particular program, you should be informed about what compliance is necessary. Excuse me. This is more of a Newt Gingrich cough, not a Hillary Clinton cough, if you're following that that particular news story. So you don't have to be involved in filling out all the compliance, but you should be aware of what's happening and be ready to provide information. That's a critically important part, and as a scientist, it's an absolute responsibility for us to make sure that we're following all the compliance regulations, and it benefits us tremendously. You are now part of a network. And there are probably 50 to 70 students involved in this program at a particular time, and that puts you in a unique position. So we hope that you're sharing your experiences with the other student researchers. I know you will often go off and work in your own laboratories, but these are opportunities to talk to other folks who are at the same level. When you travel to meetings, make sure that you're talking to students outside of your particular silo or university. As scientists, researchers, we have a very bad habit of staying within our silo, of only talking to folks in our research area at our institution. And I want to encourage you to sort of branch out, because this network is available for you, and there's a lot of shared information that you can provide for each other. We want you to present at the KINBRE Symposium that's coming up in January, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. This is an opportunity for you to go to a fairly large research symposium and participate in that, in presenting a poster or presenting an oral presentation, communicating with other students and and faculty, and this is a great experience, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But my expectation is that I will see all of you in January in Manhattan. We want to hear what's going on. Give us feedback. You know, if there's parts of the program that are not working, or things that we can improve, or things that you like, certainly let us know and give us some feedback about that. And we want you to share your successes with us. So it's incredibly surprising that scientists, it's not surprising, scientists are terrible at sharing their successes. It's amazing how poor we are about sharing our successes. And this is in a broader context of sharing information with the lay community and interacting with the lay community. We historically are not very good at that. We need to hear your successes. We need to hear when you publish a paper, when you travel, when you receive an award. And this is not only to the students, but also to the faculty that are participating in the program, because that gives us information that we can take to NIH, and that is what NIH is desperate for. That's the kind of information they can share with Congress to show them how research in the state of Kansas is helping the health of our community. So we want you to share your successes to that. One of Sarah's main job is to collect that information and work with you. So if something really good happens, you should celebrate, and then also make sure you share it with us. We're going to be following most of the students for a while, so we'll be staying in touch with you, and you'll get contacted occasionally to find out where you're going, what you're successful in. And so don't be surprised in 2 or 3 years if you hear from Dr. Chapes and Sarah. We're trying to keep track, and then importantly, have fun. Science is a tough profession, and most of what we do, if you're an experienced researcher, you understand that most of the experiments that we do don't work. So there's a lot of things that don't go well, and it's mostly because we don't have the right tools, or we didn't ask the right question, or we got a really tough reviewer, or whatever it is. But there are successes, and when you have those successes, you need to celebrate it, and you need to have fun. When I was a graduate student, I had a mentor who was not very much fun, and he really didn't teach me the fun side of science. And actually, I was pretty despondent when I finished my PhD and wasn't sure I was going to continue on. And then I moved into a laboratory with a young professor. I did a postdoc with a young professor, and he taught me how science could be really fun. And the activities that we did as a group, as a lab, the things that we did when we were successful, we learned to celebrate those successes and figure out what the next steps are. And that was kind of career changing for me. Then I knew that I always knew I loved science, but I didn't understand how fun it could be. And I want to encourage all of you to have fun. Don't get down if an experiment doesn't work. Be persistent, figure out why it didn't work, and ask a better question or use a better tool. And so when you kind of adopt that philosophy of a glass half full, it can be quite fun. And you can see, here's a picture of my lab on the lower right. This is from 4 or 5 years ago. This is, I don't even need to encourage these folks to do this. This is kind of how they are all the time. So that makes it a lot more fun. The symposium, as I mentioned, will be coming up in January. It's one of the largest research symposia in the state. We generally have 120 to 140 scientific abstracts submitted. We've been averaging about 300 attendees over the last 5 years or so. And this symposium is really, really directed towards the students, although the faculty participate as well. But we try and make this meeting very student-friendly. This might be your first opportunity as a young scientist to participate in a meeting, and we want you to get a feel for how that experience can be, and it can be very rewarding. And so the 2017 meeting will be in Manhattan, January 13th and 15th, and you'll be receiving information in the next couple of months as we move closer to the deadline for abstract submission. I think the abstracts are probably due around December 1st, but don't quote me on that because I may have to check on that. But you'll be hearing about that. We would love to have you guys submit an abstract, come and present at the meeting. You get lots of interactions with other students and other faculty. And my job is to guarantee that the weather will be fine in Manhattan on that particular weekend. We've had great luck with the weather so far. So hopefully we'll see you there. We're hoping to have a terrific attendance this particular time. We are working on trying to transition from a large paper poster to an electronic format. We're in serious negotiations right now with AV audiovisual companies to make sure that we can try and do that. So we may have digital posters at the meeting, or we may have conventional ones depending on how our negotiations go. And then finally, when you're successful, we'd like you to sort of remember that we provided financial support to your research programs. And this is really relevant because the number that you see here, P20GM103418, is the identifier to our particular grant that signifies that if you include that as an acknowledgement as part of your publications and your work, that links that work back to our grant, and that allows us to sort of understand the productivity and the success and the publications that people are developing in response as a result of our support from them. And so this number hopefully will go on all of the publications that come out of the work by your mentors and by you. And this is really directed towards the faculty members to remember to cite our number that identifies our particular grant. And this is critically important because this is what links our grant program to the success in the publication field. So there are a number of ways that you can interact with the KINBRE. Sarah's worked hard to develop our social media status. We have a website, and all of this information you can kind of go and look at. We are regularly posting scientific information related to the Kansas INBRE on Facebook. I just checked this morning. We have 452 likes. So if you haven't gone to our Facebook page, go ahead and go there and give us a like, and you'll sort of keep up to date on the things that are happening. We also have a Twitter that mostly Sarah and I tweet from. She's better at it than I am. Her tweets are funnier. Mine are not so funny. We have also Instagram and LinkedIn, and as well we have a YouTube site. So there are lots of places for you to interact with us. You can keep abreast of what's happening, both related to cutting edge science as well as things that are happening within the Kansas INBRE program. So hopefully you'll get a chance to use all those formats. So that concludes what I wanted to talk about. I can stop and take a few questions. I actually have to go and teach medical students here in about 5 minutes. So if anybody has a few questions, I'm happy to take with that. Remember to cite our work. Hopefully we'll see all you folks in Manhattan in January. And I wish you guys the best of luck in your research throughout the semester. So with that, I'll take a few questions, or if there's any comments, be happy to do that. Any questions? Yep. You guys want me to ask you a question?
We're silent in Manhattan, Doug.
All right, I stunned you into silence, which typically happens. Most of the time when I lecture to the med students, they're all asleep, so that's very normal.
Well, if there are no questions, then I'm gonna shut this down. Dr. Wright, thank you for presenting to us and telling us about KINBRE. If anybody does think of any questions, feel free to email me or Dr. Wright. You can find all our contact information on the website. Please remember to fill out your evaluation now or when you are able to. And we'll see you hopefully next month on the first Thursday of the month for our next seminar. So if anybody has any questions or anything, ask your coordinator or shoot me an email, and we'll be happy to get you any information you need. And thank you for coming.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, guys.
By 11 o'clock.
Good luck.